So what if I told you that a story from 2,400 years ago could somehow explain your social media feed, the legend of a famous lost city, and a landmark moment in science fiction history? Well, stick around. We are about to connect some dots on a wild journey that starts in ancient Greece and ends, well, right here in our totally wild modern world.
First things first, let's kick this off with a question. And it's a question that, at first glance, seems absolutely impossible. It's kind of like a puzzle that stretches across millennia, linking things that really have no business being in the same sentence. But the answer? Oh, the answer reveals something huge about how we see reality itself.
I know, it sounds like the setup to a really weird joke, right? But seriously, what is the one thread that ties together the myth of Atlantis, the algorithm that's deciding what you see online right now, and a groundbreaking moment from the Starship Enterprise?
Yep, that's it. All of these seemingly random things, they all trace their roots back to the mind of one single person, an ancient Greek philosopher. So the big question is, who was this guy, and what were these incredibly powerful ideas that he unleashed on the world?
Okay, the man's name was Plato, and to really truly get his most powerful stories, you have to understand the one single event that completely shattered his world and ended up defining his entire life's work. Plato's life was full of huge moments, right? I mean, he founded the first university in the Western world, he wrote all these famous dialogues, but one event just completely overshadows all of it. In 399 BC, Plato was a young man, probably thinking about a career in politics, and he had to watch as his mentor, the great Socrates, was sentenced to death by a democratic vote. In Plato's eyes, the wisest man he ever knew was basically killed by an ignorant mob, and that single, devastating moment gave him this deep, lifelong distrust for democracy and set him on a quest for something better, a path to real justice and undeniable truth. In that quest led him to write two of the most influential stories ever told. They were what we call allegories, basically fictional tales that are designed to explain a much deeper philosophical truth about the world we think we live in.
Okay, so this is Plato's masterpiece. He asks us to imagine a group of people who have been chained up their entire lives, seeing nothing but shadows on a wall. Now, for them, those shadows aren't just shadows, they are reality. It's all they've ever known. So when one person breaks free and sees the real world, the sunlight, the truth, it's so blinding, so different that it's actually painful. But when he goes back to tell the others, they don't see him as a hero. They think he's gone insane. He's threatening their entire world.
And this right here gets to the absolute heart of the whole story. What Plato is saying is that ignorance isn't just a prison, it's a comfort zone. The shadows are safe, they're predictable. The real world, the world of truth and knowledge, is painful, it's disorienting. That journey towards enlightenment, it takes real courage to leave the comfort of the illusion behind.
Now, his second grade story was Atlantis. And you've got to forget everything you've seen in the movies, the treasure maps, the magic crystals, all of it. Plato's Atlantis was a warning. He painted a picture of this magnificent, powerful civilization that had everything it could ever want, but in its hunger for more power, it lost its soul. It was basically a mirror he held up to his own city, Athens, a cautionary tale about what happens when a great society starts to confuse power with greatness and just rots from the inside out.
And the reason this story just took on a life of its own really comes down to the details. See, Plato didn't just tell some vague story. He loaded it with specific, almost technical descriptions. A location out in the Atlantic, a landmass bigger than a continent, a futuristic city made of rings, and this sudden catastrophic ending. These details made his philosophical myth feel so real that people eventually stopped reading it as a warning and started trying to find it on a map.
All right, so let's jump to today. Let's see how these two 2,400-year-old stories are actually more relevant now than they've ever been. The cave and the lost city. They're still with us. They've just changed their form. Honestly, Plato's cave might just be the most perfect metaphor for our digital age. Like this slide says, our screens have become the new cave wall, and algorithms are the puppet masters. It really forces you to ask, what are the shadows that we're all staring at today? And who, exactly, is casting them?
I mean, just think about it for a second. Algorithms are designed to show us what they know we'll like, creating this perfect little echo chamber where our own beliefs are just bounced right back at us. Our social media feeds give us this filtered, perfected version of life. Influencer culture sells us these synthetic lives as if they're real success stories. These are the modern shadows, and they create a comfortable, curated reality that can be really, really hard to tell apart from the actual truth.
And just like the cave found a new home on our screens,
The story of Atlantis basically escaped from Plato's philosophical dialogue and turned into one of the most enduring treasure hunts in all of human history. Seriously, the hunt for Atlantis has taken people to literally every corner of the globe. From the volcanic ruins of Santorini in Greece to this bizarre geological formation in the middle of the Sahara Desert, people have been desperately searching for Plato's lost city. And even with the complete lack of any real archaeological evidence, the hunt just goes on. It's just incredible proof of the power of a good story to feel more real than reality itself.
Okay, so we've connected Plato to lost cities and social media. But what about that interracial kiss? Well, this brings us to the most surprising echo of all, in a place you would probably never expect, the final frontier.
The year is 1968. This was a time of huge social and political upheaval in the United States, especially around the issue of race. And on television, a little science fiction show was getting ready to boldly go where no TV show had ever gone before.
The show, of course, was Star Trek, and the moment was a kiss between Captain Kirk and Lieutenant Uhura. Now, the real-world fear this created was just immense. The network was terrified. They were absolutely convinced that showing a white man kissing a black woman would cause TV stations in the American South to revolt and drop the show. This wasn't just a scene in an episode, it was a cultural battle.
And here's the kicker. The connection to Plato could not have been more direct. The title of that specific episode was Plato's Stepchildren. And the plot? It was about a society that tried to build a perfect utopia based on Plato's philosophy, but they ended up becoming arrogant, cruel tyrants. They were a society that had completely lost its way, corrupted by its own power. A perfect echo of Plato's Atlantis. And in the episode, these beings force Kirk and Uhura to kiss against their will, just for their own cruel entertainment.
So, let's bring all of these different threads together. We've got a Greek philosopher, a lost city, a sci-fi TV show. What is the final crucial point that connects every single one of them?
His ultimate message is just, it's timeless. Progress is not easy. Challenging the beliefs you've held for a long time, whether it's about the nature of reality or about other people, is a difficult and often painful process. It means you have to step out of that cozy, comfortable darkness and into a blinding, totally unfamiliar light. When you think about it that way, that kiss on Star Trek was a real-world escape from the cave. It took the shadow, the unspoken, often unseen prejudice of the time, and it dragged it kicking and screaming into the bright light of millions of television screens. It was controversial, it made people uncomfortable, exactly like Plato predicted the journey toward truth would be.
You see, in the end, Plato's real genius wasn't about giving us all the answers. It was about giving us the right questions. His stories about the cave and Atlantis, they aren't just ancient myths, they're tools for thinking. They're urging us to look at our own lives, our own screens, our own beliefs, and to ask that one simple and kind of terrifying question: is this real, or is it just a shadow on the wall?